You're listening to The Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with Lyndia Grant.
Good evening, Radio 1 listeners. It's good to be here with you this Friday afternoon. It's a beautiful day in the Washington, D.C. area. You're listening to the Lyndia Grant Show. We're going to go ahead and get started. I think we may have Dr. Julianne Malvo today. I'm going to wait and see. If not, we're going to have NAACP AXO winners from the Washington, D.C. chapter that are going to come on today to do two things. They're going to help me talk about giving you the history of Juneteenth, and they're going to talk about their upcoming competition that's coming up within a few weeks. So I want to say good afternoon to the AXO youth. How are you all?
Good afternoon. I'm great. How are you?
All right. Tell me who I'm speaking to first. Who is
My name
that?
is Amoa Salam.
All right. How are you, Amoa? And who else
great.
is there?
Thank you. Happy to be.
Yes, I'm happy to have you. And who's with you?
I am Jakaya Vaughn.
Hi, Jakaya. Are you the dancer? I love your photo.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to both of you. And then the third person?
Hi, it's Kenyatta. I am an AXO committee member.
Okay, thank you, Kenyatta. I thank you so much for...
How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Just was running
Dr. Malvo is on.
Huh? Okay, Dr. Julianne Malvo is on, so you all hold tight, and we're going to be talking to Dr. Julianne Malvo for the first segment, and she's going to bring us up to date on some politics. Dr. Julianne, how are you today?
Sister Lyndia, I am great, highly favored, sitting here in Washington. You know, I get here every now and then, and happy to talk to you.
Well, I'm happy to talk to you, too. I didn't think I was going to have you because I sent so many messages and texts. So I'm glad you got to me just in the nick of time. Dr. Julianne, talk to us about what's going on. I know everybody's heard some of it, but you give us your highlight.
Well, I think the biggest highlight is the economy. I think that President Biden talked about inflation and rising interest rates. We've seen the highest interest rate increase in more than 25 years. The interest rate increase of 0.75%, that's almost 1%. We were expecting half-point increases. What's going on with the economy? Well, we're sitting at the cusp of a recession, and at the same time, people are spending money. So it's not as clear as people might think. A lot of people either stack some money or they're just tired of living under COVID. So if they're not flying, they're driving, and if they're not driving, they're walking. But they're doing what they have to do to enjoy the summer, and it is pushing prices up. In addition, Lyndia, as you know, as I know, gas prices have gone up the roof. In L.A., yes, I'm looking at prices that exceed 7.5.
Oh, my God.
Here in Washington, we're looking at $5 and $6 a gallon. And so when you see that, it affects other things. Airline tickets, if you look at airline tickets, they've gone up. Everything has gone up. And what consumers have to do is figure out how they manage it. And that's the bottom line for people who are listening. Y'all, how you manage it? Don't panic, don't trip, but manage it, which means don't spend all your money, but spend some of it. Don't walk around pitiful. If you had a summer vacation plan, maybe a friend of mine had me cracking up. She said she and her husband and their 3 children are going to be in one hotel room. I said, well, that's going to do a lot for your sex life. But, but they're, as opposed to, usually they put the kids in one room, they're in the next room. They're cutting back, but they're not eliminating. So the economy is top of line. There was a really great piece in the Washington Post by Secretary of Labor, as well as Marty Walsh, as well as Cecilia Rouse, who's a black woman who's the head of the Council of Economic Advisors, talking about, this is not Biden's fault. And let's be clear, it's not Biden's fault. We have to talk about Ukraine. We have to talk about a number of other things that are going on that are affecting gas prices. So let's deal with that. But put a pin in the economy. It is important, but this, and let me say, this has been the worst week for the stock market in probably 20 years. We see stock prices plummet. But if you're listening to me, guys, don't sell your stuff. This is a good time to buy some stuff. If it's cheap, buy it. Because you'll make money, because it's going to come back. Stocks always come back. Now, the January 6th hearings are fascinating to me. Trump really wanted Pence to be killed.
I could not believe that. Yeah.
He said he deserved to be hung. And Pence is your basic white boy Republican. How can he do that? How can he go there? Well, we know what he is and what the orange orangutan roars. But we're learning a lot. I don't think that anything is a bombshell, but I think we're learning a lot about the inner character of Donald John Trump, and we're also learning a lot about the people who supported him and covered for him. People, go back on the weekend and watch this stuff. This is scary, it's frightening, and it really does not speak well to the nature of our country. To add to that footnote, Jenny Thomas, Clarence Thomas's wife, has been in cahoots with these people. How can he sit on the Supreme Court when his wife is conspiring to turn the government over? I'm just saying. I have no conclusion. I'm just saying. Now, the best news of the week, of course, is that we're getting some progress on gun control. It's not the progress we'd like to see, but it's better than nothing. And I have to tell my young people every day, they say, we got to do this, we got to do this. Yes, we do. But, incremental progress is not a bad thing. And so what we're seeing with gun control is incremental progress. And we're hopeful that something will be signed, if not today, perhaps on Monday, to make sure that, or Tuesday, to make sure that we basically limit who has access, especially to these automatic weapons. I could get you saying to me, Lyndia, well, I live in a high crime area. I need a gun to protect my house. You don't need a semi-automatic rifle that could kill 20 people at one time. You might need a pistol to shoot somebody. So the availability of these weapons is a huge problem, and it's something that we basically are going to have to deal with. And the other thing we're going to have to deal with is what's happening to our teachers. Teachers are deciding not to come back to school because we created a hostile workplace environment for them. And we have to look at that. When you tell them they can't talk about race, they can't do this, they can't do that, what we're really telling them is they can't do their jobs. What do you do as a teacher in Texas when people ask you about Juneteenth? How do you answer that if you can't talk about race? Texas, we celebrate Juneteenth because Texas people learned 2 years after the fact that they were free. And I used to not celebrate Juneteenth. I used to be real mad about it. Like, why are we celebrating the fact that black people learned about this stuff late? Why are we celebrating the late? But it's right, it's just, and we'll give President Biden props for making Juneteenth a federal holiday. I'm interested if people are telling me what they're doing at their jobs, their workplaces. I shut my office at Cal State LA down. We ain't open. The university has not done anything. I am a dean. They could fire me if they want to. We ain't open. We ain't doing business on Juneteenth, period. And that's what we all need to say. I have one person that reached out, did it. This sister said, I ain't coming to work. I said, why don't you say Juneteenth? I said, okay, none of us coming to work. Yeah, this is how we go roll. So that's what I have. I know you wanted me to be quick and dirty, and I'm always quick and never dirty. But,
all right. Thank you so much, Dr. Julian.
And I want to shout out to the young ladies you were talking to. Appreciate y'all.
All right, good. Thank you. NAACP, they do a fantastic job with their youth, too. All right, you have a good holiday week. Have a good holiday weekend, Dr. Julian. You're listening to the Lyndia Grant Show. After commercial break, when we come back, we're going to be talking to 3 young people from NAACP AXO, talking a little bit about Juneteenth. We only have about 12 minutes. So they have abbreviated it so that we can hear a version that hopefully you all can understand. We're going to go to a commercial break, and we'll be back in a moment.
Reality Radio.
I'm Kathy Hughes, asking you to join me in a moment of prayer. Oh, dear God, creator of all, we come to you in dire distress and anguish. We petition you, Lord, for forgiveness of our apathy, our inertia, and our total indifference to the plague of murder that is permeating in our lives. We're killing our children, our elders, and ourselves with limited remorse or disdain for our actions and with no prohibition against its reoccurrence. We are accepting murder and genocide as everyday activities, and we're ignoring God's commandment of thou shalt not kill. We know that a commandment is a divine order, an edict, a law.
This is Frank Smith with the African American Civil War Museum in Washington, D.C., located at 1925 Vermont Avenue Northwest on the Green Line. Did you know that a recent study found that children who visit museums do better in school and in life than children who do not? So parents, teachers, and preachers, let's get moving. I promise you, if you bring your children to the African American Civil War Museum, they will be inspired by the images that they see. They will be impressed by our living history reenactors who are always available, and they will be involved in our scavenger hunt that takes them throughout our exhibit. That's the African American Civil War Museum, 1925 Vermont Avenue. Our hours are 10 to 6:30 on weekdays, 12 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. See it. Be inspired.
If it wasn't for my care coach at AmeriHealth, I probably wouldn't be so healthy right now. As a man, you know we don't get checkups or see a doctor regularly anyways. It's probably just a man thing because none of my partners go either. We know we should, but we just don't, and hope it works out.
So what changed for you?
AmeriHealth assigned me a care coach, somebody that gives one-on-one help, answer questions, explain things, and help set my appointments. She also helped me understand what having high blood pressure really means and ways to manage it so it doesn't kill me. It ain't nothing to play with. If you're a member of AmeriHealth, ask for a care coach. I'm glad I got mine.
At AmeriHealth, if you need a care coach, you can have one. Just call us at 1-877-759-6224 to get connected. 1-877-759-6224. This program is funded in part by the government of the District of Columbia Department of Healthcare Finance. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Washington Informer religion columnist Lyndia Grant.
Ida B. Wells, born into enslavement, was a journalist and activist. An avid reader, she read through the entire Bible many times. Wells was once asked to leave the ladies' car and sit in the colored train. She refused, and train officials pushed her. Ida B. Wells retaliated, but was pushed off the train at the next stop. A crowd of whites applauded. She vowed to get even. 3 of her close friends were lynched for opening businesses that cut into profits of whites. Everything changed for Wells. She spoke out internationally against lynching of blacks for the rest of her life. Through her efforts, lynching in America nearly disappeared by the time of her death. And NAACP founder, we salute Ida B. Wells for Women's History Month.
Read more in the religion column of the Washington Informer, an award-winning African-American newspaper. We don't report crime or gossip, just positive news. Pick up the Washington Informer or visit us online at washingtoninformer.com. Call 202-561-4100 for more information.
We are back. I'm going to quickly introduce my guests who are going to give me abbreviated history on Juneteenth. Amor Salom is a rising junior at Howard University where he majors in math. His goal is to continue to spread an appreciation for STEM throughout the black diaspora. In addition to his academic prowess, Amor has an affinity for the arts. He loves traditional African drum and dance and is developing his sculpting and poetic talents. He participated in the NAACP AXO Academic Olympic competition for his last 2 years in high school. He earned a bronze medal in math and a silver medal in physics, then returning and winning a bronze medal in sculpting and a gold medal in both categories of math and written poetry. Amor is a determined scholar, an avid reader, an emerging artist, and aspiring saxophonist. Next, we have Jakaya Vaughn. She is 15-year-old, a sophomore, currently attending Laurel Springs School. Jakaya is a professional training student at the Viva, V-I-V-A School of Dance located in Washington, D.C., and she has traveled with Viva to New York City, Chicago, Illinois, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for the 32nd Annual International Association of Black and Dance Conference and Festival. She is a dynamic performer and a supremely quick study. Her creative work is largely expressed through her bold sensibilities and her unique ability to interpret human experience into moving dialogue. She aspires to be a professional performer and start a nonprofit. This summer, she will represent D.C. at AXO's team in the category of contemporary dance. And then we have Kenyatta Smith, a native Washingtonian and a graduate of Howard University. She's one of her many missions in life is to uplift the hard-to-reach communities through art, education, and pure love. She currently works as an organizer with More Voice DC, where she brings her extensive background of community organizing and grassroots mobilization to impact important issues facing residents of DC. She's the curator of Little Shops of Cool and Market, a marketplace for creative of all curiosities. She's been an instrumental member of AXO committee, helping with student engagement, recruitment, and enrichment activities. So welcome to the show, all of you. And before we get started talking about Juneteenth, which is our assignment for today, I want to just play this quick excerpt.
My name is Fountain Hughes. I was born in Charlottesville, Virginia. My grandfather belonged to Thomas Jefferson. My grandfather was 115 years old when he died, and now I am 101 years old. That's enough. Well, I don't know how. I don't know, to tell you the truth. When I think of it today, I don't know how I'm living. You wasn't treated as good as you treat dogs now. But still, I don't like to talk with it because it makes people feel bad.
Do you remember much about the Civil War?
I remember when the Yankees came along and took all the good horses and sold all the meat and flour and sugar and stuff out in the river and let it go down the river. And they know the people wouldn't have nothing to live on, but they done that. And that's the reason why I don't like to talk about it. Colored people are free. You ought to be awful thankful. And some of them are sorry they are free now. Some of them now would rather be slaves.
Which would you rather be on, Phil?
Me? You know what I'd rather do? If I thought that I'd ever be a slave again, I'd take a gun and just end it all right away. Because you're nothing but a dog. You're not a thing but a dog.
All right, I just wanted you to hear this voices from the slaves. This gentleman had been a slave, and you all go ahead now. I don't know who's going to go first. Would you all go ahead and begin your presentation?
Well, I'm going to get started. Hello and thank you. My name is Kenyatta, and I'm going to give a quick abbreviated history on Juneteenth before our beautiful students give us some facts. So we all know in 1863, Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed all slaves in America in all states, the Confederate states and the northern states. But for some reason, the news didn't get down to our Confederate southern states and in Texas. So between 1963 and 1965, there were a group of slaves in these southern areas who had no clue that they were free. So our Union troops had to march down to different small towns in Texas and other southern cities and free every single slave, which is how Juneteenth came about. And we all know last year, or was it in 2021? Yes, last year, President Joe Biden made Juneteenth a national federal holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just the abbreviated version of Juneteenth. And for me, Juneteenth is just Freedom Day for just all Black Americans.
And I want to just, you said 1965, didn't you? I thought you were saying 1865.
Excuse me, 1865. Thank
yes,
you.
ma'am.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure that the listeners heard that. Okay, tell us who's next.
1865. Yes.
Go ahead. Who's next?
I would like to continue on and give a little bit more information from that overview. Following the issuing of the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, not all enslaved Africans immediately found their freedom. And so in some places where they were not rebelling, where those states were not rebelling against the Union, slavery was still enacted. And in other places where it should have been ended, those people did not find out. So the Civil War ended in the summer of 1865. That's 2 years later. And Union General Gordon Granger and his troops traveled to Galveston, Texas, to announce General Orders Number 3 on June 19, 1865. June 19th would go on to be known and celebrated as Juneteenth. So part of General Order Number 3 encouraged the newly freed Africans to remain with their past owners. They wanted the Africans who had been freed from chattel slavery to then still work for the people who were keeping them captive as sharecroppers. And so that's how sharecropping and those things arose from the Indian slaves. So the period after Juneteenth is known as the Scatter. And from there was panic because the workforce that was the foundation of America had been lost. And sharecropping became the main way that labor was extracted from African people, in addition to work being shifted over to factories as technology was advancing in America. So Juneteenth has been celebrated under many names since then: Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, Celebration Day, Second Independence Day, and Emancipation Day, just to name a few. And so my friend will continue.
Okay, you only got a couple of minutes. Time is running out. I'm so sorry.
Okay, and I will continue. So, Emancipation Park in Houston, Texas was brought specifically to celebrate Juneteenth. The 10-acre parcel of land was purchased by former slaves Richard Allen, Richard Brock, Jack Yates, and Elias Dibble for $800 in 1817. During the early 20th century, Juneteenth celebrations declined. The enactment of Jim Crow laws dampened the celebration of freedom. In addition, the Great Depression forced many black farming families away from the rural areas and into the urban environments to seek work, resulting in difficulty taking the day to celebrate. The celebration of Juneteenth was revived during the Civil Rights Movement. The Poor People's March, planned by Martin Luther King Jr., was purposely scheduled to coincide with the date. March participants took the celebrations back to their home states, and soon the holiday was reborn. Celebrations of Juneteenth continue today. Traditions include public readings of the Emancipation Proclamation, singing traditional songs, and reading of works by noted African American writers. Celebrations can also take the form of rodeos, street fairs, cookouts, family reunions, park parties, historical reenactments, and Miss Juneteenth contests. On June 17, 2021, President Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act, which officially made Juneteenth a federal holiday. This holiday is the first holiday to be approved since President Ronald Reagan signed a 1983 bill that approved Martin Luther King Jr. Day as a federal holiday.
All right. Can you give, Kenyatta, can you give now this quick announcement about your competition? Because I have to go to the close. Is there an announcement?
Yes. So we are participating in AXO. It's the first live competition since 2019. We'll be participating in Atlantic City on July 14th through the 17th.
Okay, well, good. Thank you.
Yes, That's it.
All right. Well, I thank you for being my guest today. We have to watch the clock because it's only a 30-minute show. Thank you all for being on today. I hope folks listening got a chance to hear a short version of what Juneteenth is, and that you all will celebrate on Monday, the official holiday. All right, we're going to close now. Like us on Facebook, pick up the Washington Informer newspaper, and this week read about Albertina Walker. Next Friday, my guest is Reverend Dr. James Coleman. He's going to be talking about how the hearings January 6th are impacting on us and American citizens. And join us at All Nations on Sunday for our Father's Day service and a panel on Juneteenth as well. All right, that does it for our show this week. We invite you to tune in again next week to listen to the Lyndia Grant Show. Words, thoughts, and deeds have a boomerang effect, so be careful what you send out. Scripture says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. So think on these things from the Lyndia Grant Show. I'm your host. Until next week, good day.
Thank you for listening to the Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with your host, Lyndia Grant.